Good morning. My name is Bill Herbert, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Center for the Study of Collective Bargaining in Higher Education at Hunter College. It's my privilege to welcome you to today's keynote address by philosopher and author Michael Sandel. Professor Sandel's address is part of the National Center's 50th Anniversary Conference. We invited Professor Sandel to speak today because of his important and provocative book, The Tyranny of Merit, along with his writings on trade unions, justice, and civic republicanism. In his recent book, Professor Sandel discusses how the overemphasis on meritocracy instead of the common good has led to corrosive political divisions with growing diploma divide, fueling prejudice against the less educated, inequalities of opportunity, increased resentment, and anti-intellectualism. Our invitation to Professor Sandel also stems from the fact that another renowned philosopher, Sidney Hook, spoke at our first annual conference and correctly predicted that unionization would be the wave of the future, particularly among those on the lower ranks of higher education. Following his address today, Professor Sandel will be signing books in the K Playhouse lobby behind the audience. For those unfamiliar with the National Center, we are a CUNY Labor Management Research Center. Our history dates back to May 1st, 1970, where a conference was held organized by CUNY after it reached its first collective bargaining agreements resulting in faculty contracts. At the 1970 CUNY conference, labor professor Donald Wallet proposed the creation of a national research center that would focus on collective bargaining in higher education. In his address, Wallet set forth a detailed blueprint on the structure and activities of the proposed center. 2 years later, in 1972, his blueprint was implemented when the National Center was formally created at CUNY. Today, the center is dedicated to studying collective bargaining as a form of workplace democracy, consistent with the fact that the labor representation process is actually modeled on our political system. We believe at the National Center that collective bargaining is an important means for advancing higher education and working conditions of workers on campus. The National Center's activities include organizing conferences like today, trainings, and publishing interdisciplinary research. Among our core research functions are maintaining a database of collective bargaining relationships and contracts, tracking new representation efforts, producing directories of collective bargaining relationships, and other scholarship. We also publish a peer-reviewed journal of collective bargaining in the Academy, as well as a monthly newsletter, which you're welcome to sign up for on our website. As part of our research mission, we also keep track of changes in public and private sector labor law, and we also present research at academic conferences and other forums. Our research today is aided by a team of affiliated researchers from other CUNY institutions and Rutgers University, along with extraordinary Hunter College undergraduate interns. The National Center's research is particularly relevant today as support for unionization is growing on and off campuses by a new generation. The growing support by unions is reflected in the overwhelming votes in favor of unionization in representation elections held following the end of the pandemic. Organizing a conference this size requires a great deal of planning and hard work. Effectuating it would not have been possible without the extraordinary efforts of our administrator, Michelle Savarese. So let's give a hand for Michelle Savarese. We also must thank the many student volunteers, staff, friends, and family who are assisting during the three-day conference. You will see them wearing the purple National Center Research Team t-shirt. And they are there to assist you during the course of the conference. We're thrilled also this year to have panels co-sponsored or co-organized by other organizations, including the National Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Arbitrators, the Association of Labor Relations Agencies, and the Music Workers Alliance. The conference is made possible through generous sponsorships from TIA, the Standard, many faculty unions, and law firms. A full list of sponsors is in your program and our conference website, which I encourage you to visit. We have archival material posted on the conference website from the archives of the National Center. The conference is also supported by advertisements that have been placed in the conference booklet. So now for 2 decades, TIA has been a consistent financial supporter of our research and conferences. They have been a true partner for helping us provide resources that allows for us to continue as a research center. And we're so very grateful for that support. And we've asked Ann Olin, the managing director of TIA Institute, to make a few welcoming remarks. Ann?
Thank you, and hello everyone, good morning. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be able to extend greetings on behalf of TIAA. We've been around a little bit longer than 50 years, although congratulations are in order to the National Center. TIAA was founded in 1918 by Andrew Carnegie, who at the time was horrified to think that faculty who dedicated their lives to shaping young people's lives might retire into poverty. And with that, TIAA was born, and 105 years later, we're still at it, keeping good care of your retirement money. My retirement money, too. I've been with TIAA for over 35 years. And we have appreciated opportunities to support conferences like this, research that informs retirement products, services, and policies. And hopefully, we'll all learn a lot over the course of this conference, and I'll be able to bring that back to my colleagues at TIAA. So enjoy the conference, and thank you again.
Thank you, Ann. The National Center looks forward to continuing our collaboration with TIAA in the coming years. So one aspect of the National Center is, an important aspect of it is our active board of advisors that provides myself and others at the center with guidance and assistance. The board includes higher education administrators, union representatives, and scholars from around the country. It is now my great pleasure to introduce 2 members of the National Center's board to give welcoming remarks and to provide information about our Journal of Collective Bargaining in the Academy. So first I'd like to introduce Gary Rose, who is a professor of higher education at the University of Arizona and co-editor with Jeff Cross of the Journal of Collective Bargaining in the Academy. Gary?
Good morning. I want to welcome you, as Bill said, on behalf of the Journal of Collective Bargaining, the Academy, which, like the center itself, the function of it is to enhance our collective future by sharing and circulating the collective wisdom, experience, expertise, and empirical work of members of our community. And that actually is part of the core function of the center and part of its mission statement, defining collective bargaining as a dimension of workplace democracy that advances higher education and advances our working conditions. This year we have a volume 14 that both has regular articles, 5 articles, a couple of academic articles, an opinion piece, a practitioner's perspective, and 2 interviews with colleagues who have written about and engaged in collective bargaining for decades. But we also have a baker's dozen of papers that Jeff and myself and Karen Stubis, who's a new co-editor, we're delighted to welcome, from the 50 years of proceedings of this conference. And so I just think it's really important to think about how this conference, everybody speaks about the importance of bringing labor and management together. The Journal does the same thing. Ways in which we can enhance the principles, the process, and the purposes of collective bargaining with this conference and with the papers that are submitted to the Journal. So I encourage you to think about contributing. And if you want to be interviewed by Karen or I or Jeff, I've already identified some more folks because it's actually a lot of fun to sit down and talk with someone who's worked in this field for 20 or 30 years and get their wisdom. So I'll encourage you to do that. And now I'll welcome Karen.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, to Gary. So aren't we fortunate to be in this beautiful space at Hunter? So thank you to Hunter College and President Rob for that support. So I just want to add a few words to what Gary said about the Journal. The Journal is similar to the National Center and these conferences in that it brings together labor and management. I think you might even be able to tell by how Gary's dressed and how I'm dressed, who's labor and who's management. But be that as it may. I have been coming to these conferences for over 30 years. I'm slicing the years down a little bit. And participating in the National Center's Advisory Board for many, many years as well. And this has become for me, I've been involved in collective bargaining and higher education on the management side all that time, a sort of a safe space where we can freely exchange ideas with one another without the sometimes acrimony of the bargaining table itself in our home institution. So it's really a very, very special place to me. So in the past 12 months, I was asked to join the editorial board of the Journal of Collective Bargaining in the Academy, and I couldn't have been more thrilled. I've had a little bit of a taste of it with Jeff and Gary. This year they've done the heavy lifting for Volume 14, but I've been a little bit involved to see what the future's going to hold. And I just encourage you to take a look at the Journal, especially Volume 14, which is hot off the presses, newly out, March 17th, I think we got it out. It's not only, as Gary noted, a compendium of new articles, but also 50 years of selections from 50 years of scholarship of individuals who have submitted to the Journal and also been active in the National Academy. And what I really wanted to talk to you about was that all of you have been involved in collective bargaining in higher education in some way, and we not only encourage you to think about submitting a journal article or a practitioner's perspective to the Journal, but we will be talking to you about that. So don't put a block yet on emails from me or Gary or Jeff. We're going to be reaching out in a fairly aggressive is such a bad word, but intentional way to encourage you to submit, because we're interested in new submissions. We're interested in those who have been in the field for a long time. There are refereed publications, so younger scholars, you can get your refereed publications, some of them in the Journal. But we're also very interested in interviews, as Gary noted, and practitioner perspectives. You all have something to say about collective bargaining in higher education, and we want to hear what you have to say, and we want to publish it so other folks can know what your thoughts are. So welcome again, and thanks for being here, and looking forward to talking to each of you as the conference progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary and Karen. One other aspect that Karen is, a new role Karen is taking on, is she's also now a National Center affiliated researcher focusing on racial and gender equity. And we look forward to more scholarship in that area. So let me provide you with some conference logistics. Following the conference keynote address this morning, there will be 20 breakout sessions spread out over the next 2 days. That will be held across the street in the West and East building of Hunter, as well as at Roosevelt House. The schedule, maps, and other important information are available in the conference brochure, and particularly on the conference app, where you can find the bios, the schedule, maps, and including directional videos in case you need that for navigation. Throughout the conference, there will be, as I mentioned, there will be staff and volunteers present for you to provide assistance. So the longevity of the center over the past half century is a testament to the vision of the founders, the support that we've received from CUNY and Hunter College President Rabb, along with the leadership of former Executive Director Richard Boris and his predecessors. It was under Richard's able leadership from 2001 to 2013 that the National Center was restored and revitalized. The central turning point, however, in the National Center's 50-year history was the 2002 agreement between CUNY and President Jennifer Rabb to relocate the center to Hunter College. There's no question that the National Center's growth and accomplishments over the past 2 decades would not have been possible without President Rabb's leadership and support. Her strong desire for the National Center to expand and succeed as a major national research center was palpable to me during her interview with me in 2013 about being as a candidate to replace Richard. Consistent with President Raab's vision and the solid foundation laid by Richard, the National Center significantly expanded its programming, research, and publications over the past decade. As we know, the accomplishments of President Raab at Hunter College as Hunter College's 13th president are vast and deep. They include the restoration of Roosevelt House, turning it into a public policy institute. It also includes construction of the School of Social Work in East Harlem, the renovation of Hunter's terrific library, along with so many other projects and initiatives. A small but important part of President Raab's legacy is the support she's provided to permit the National Center to thrive again as an interdisciplinary research center to the betterment of the entire higher education labor management community throughout the nation.